Hey y'all, Amelia here for your weekly 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday. Excited to be with you as all to deliver 10 minutes of the most high value, powerful, impactful education that you're going to get all week absolutely for free. As always, I'm Amelia Borland with Higher Standards Caregiver Training, bringing this to you. And before we get started, please remember this is for educational purposes only. If anything that I do or show you reminds you of someone who you think you need medical advice about or who needs to be seen by a healthcare provider, then please make sure that that person gets access to the correct medical provider to get what they need, as this is for educational purposes only. Okay. So you might be wondering why I've got stuff here with me today. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit. So, obviously one of the most important things that I talk about in any of my training programs and any of my live trainings or on-demand trainings is safety. I mean, safety has to come first, no matter what, right? And a lot of times we get basic training, or we give caregivers very basic training on common equipment, but we don't necessarily talk to caregivers about sort of the in healthcare, we call them precautions and contraindications, right? It's just a fancy way of saying, like, sometimes you don't want to do this, or here's something that you have to think about before using this equipment, because it might not always be the best idea. So I wanted to go over one of those quick tips for caregivers today related to gait belts. Everyone's favorite, or not favorite, depends who you ask. Okay. So here's the thing about gait belts. The vast majority of the time, most of the time, healthcare providers are going to recommend that you use something like a gait belt during your transfers in order to help keep folks safe. And there are great reasons for that. I generally recommend using a gait belt. And the reason is because it allows you to have better control over the body of the person that you're moving in a way that is actually safe. But here's the thing. It's only, just like any other piece of equipment, a gait belt is only as safe as you use it. And unfortunately, most of the time when I see gait belts being used, they're actually being used incorrectly in ways that can actually cause safety issues. We're not going to go over all of those things right now, but I am going to give you, because we're doing one tip for caregivers. But I am going to go over something really specific. So gait belts. We all know that we generally need to be using them a lot of the time during transfers, but there are scenarios where it is not safe to use a gait belt. And I'm going to go over one of those here with you today, which is where my buddy comes in. Don't you wish you had abs like this? I wish I did. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So this person has a peg tube in, feeding tube that goes directly into the abdomen here. This is definitely a case when we don't want to use a gait belt. We certainly don't want to put this gait belt underneath. I've never put a gait belt on this dude before. Give me a second. Look, I should have practiced this. Oh my gosh. Let me get this sort of set up beforehand. He's a little wiggly. He's not very stable for putting on a gait belt. Okay, here we go. This doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be so that I can show you. Okay, let's get this on. All right. Okay, so this is the most clumsy gait belt application of all time. I promise it shouldn't look like that. Okay, anyway, well, the gait belt, once it's on, should look like this, but it shouldn't be that hard. Like I said, it's easier when your person, this isn't, it's easier when someone's not about to fall over and you don't have to hold them up the whole time. That does sometimes happen, of course. Okay, so what happens now that this is on? What happens if I actually have to catch this person and the gait belt slides up? Well, there's a pretty fair chance that it's actually going to rip out that peg tube, or at the very least do some significant damage. We don't want that. That is definitely not good. Same thing if we're going over the top of it. So this is definitely one of those really clear scenarios where if you have a feeding tube in someone's abdomen, you do not want to put a gait belt over that area. Again, just a super important thing for caregivers to know, especially because these aren't that uncommon. And in fact, folks coming home with drains, lines, tubes, all kinds of things is really, really getting much, much more common. So this is the kind of stuff that is important to know about as a caregiver. All right, so that's tip number one for caregivers. Is really know what not to do when not to use a gait belt. And here's an example of a time when a gait belt is not safe to use over an area. Okay, second tip today, as always, for caregiving organizations, ties right back in to what we were talking about here. The tip is to make sure your caregivers are educated. Make sure that they're trained in these things. Make sure that they're being taught these things, and make sure that that everyone is being taught it in the same standardized way, right? That way, you know, no matter who your caregiver is that you are sending to work with someone, that they should have the knowledge they need in order to prevent serious injuries like this from happening simply from a lack of knowledge. And if, you know, there's a good reason that I bring this up. It's because actually injuries to peg tubes can be pretty common, and they can be really, really gnarly. They're intimidating. Caregivers are generally not trained really well, or non-medical caregivers, I should say. Family caregivers also are not generally trained what to do with these things or how to appropriately handle them during a transfer or care situation. But the fact is, they're out there, they're seeing them, they're running into them. So it's so important that your caregivers have this knowledge and so much other knowledge in order to make sure that they can care for the folks that they are caring for safely. Investing in your caregivers, investing in their education is absolutely essential to the health and welfare of your clients, to the health and welfare of your caregivers, and certainly to the health and welfare of your organization. Because if your clients are having problems with their health and wellness and getting injured, and your caregivers are having problems with their health and wellness and getting injured, then that basically means that your organization, which the most important part of your clients are your caregivers, that your organization is having a lot of is also being impacted significantly by those issues. So all of these things go together. Investing in the training and knowledge of your caregivers is absolutely essential. All right, that is it for me for today's 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday. I hope that you enjoyed it. Sorry, I'm still kind of trying to hold this guy up and make sure that he doesn't fall over on me while I am recording here. I hope that you all have a wonderful, lovely week. I will be back next Tuesday live, I promise, at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time here on LinkedIn. I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, please stay healthy, please stay well, and take care. Bye, y'all.